Our next company is Famous. I'm presenting our Steve Newcomb and Mark Liu. Come on, let's see it. Hey guys.
I think we're good.
Hi. Hi.
Wrong one. There we go. One of my favorite things to do in the world is to show people the famous demo. And that's because as we walk people through the famous demo, it's a lot like walking them through Plato's cave, and when they get out of it, they experience a whole new world that they didn't know actually existed. And what we're looking at here is the Hello World app that every designer and every developer gets to build when they learn how to code Famous. And this is sort of a technologies and capabilities sort of demo. And as we walk people through kind of just the basics of coding in 3D, we ask people to take a moment, process what you're seeing. What is this? And that's when we say, let's take the first step together, and I do this. And we see that it's operating with the exact same performance, in fact, ridiculous performance here. Performance that even a native app would die to have. And I let people know that this is not a movie, it's not WebGL, it's not a browser plugin, and as much as some people wish we have not resurrected Flash. But here's the kicker. This isn't HTML5 either. When we built Famous, we actually set out to solve HTML5 and make it performant. But after a year and a half, we actually realized that it's not possible at this given time. That there are inherent flaws that exist in the browser that make that impossible to do things like this. And we are a year and a half into our money, and frankly, we shit a Twinkie. And we said to ourselves, we've got to go into a different direction if we want to do stuff like this. And when I show people what I'm doing here, they often ask, what is this written in? And to all of my JavaScript brethren out there, I say, this is what JavaScript can do. And as we step into this, they say, well, how did you do this? And I said, well, this also runs on iOS, Android, it runs on PCs, and it runs on Macs. And here's the clue to what we did. It also runs on Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. Because we took a look at this problem from a completely different vector. There's another industry of engineers who've already solved performance in both 3D and 2D. Game engineers. A video game can do this without even blinking. And we asked ourselves a fundamental question that led us to this invention. And I hope this one question takes the day at TechCrunch. What is the difference between a game and an app, after all? Isn't it just pixels? And if a game engine has already solved 3D performance, ergo we get 2D performance automatically. And so we'd asked ourselves, what if a game engine is an app engine? Take a moment and process what you're seeing. Think of this not as an app. Think of this as a game. And that was the first step in our core invention. The other step was how to get it into a browser and do it performantly. And what we did is we found a way to bypass all of the inefficient things that exist in any browser, the stuff that's holding HTML5 back. And we're having a direct and beautiful mathematical conversation with the GPU. And this solution abstracts out to every device that has a GPU and an operating system that can access it. And we asked ourselves when we came into this competition, what makes us disruptive? And for me, the reason I started Famous was to make JavaScript engineers famous. And for me, this gives JavaScript engineers a new tool in their tool belt that they didn't have before. And I think about all of my friends that are trying to build web apps in JavaScript, and they're beating their heads up against the wall, and they believed that HTML5 was going to be a long-haul wait. They have a new tool now, and that's really, really important to me. A tool so powerful that I actually think that we can change them, not by a little bit, but by an order of magnitude, to the point where people say HTML5 is good, native is better, but famous is the best. And I see a world in which designers and product people take a look at a template like this and they say, I don't see periodic table elements. I'm thinking maybe someone from Flickr is looking at this and saying, I see the most beautiful photo gallery in the world. Maybe someone from Pinterest is looking at this and saying, I see the most badass pinboard I've ever imagined. Maybe George Lucas is taking a look at this and saying, I see the new intro to my next film. And we wanted to take a page from my favorite company in the world, WordPress, and we want to democratize the development of the 3D world. But that's not where it ends. It actually, we won't succeed unless we build a bridge from the 2D world to the 3D world. So if we can switch to the other iPad for a moment.
Got to move quickly.
Okay, I'm just about to finish up. Can we switch to the other iPad? Well, while they're switching it, famous, as we said before, if you can solve 3D, you can solve 2D. And what you're looking at now looks a lot like any native app in the App Store. And while it may seem to you right now that the chasm between 2D and 3D is enormous, that it's a universal way, if you start using Famous, it's merely an options click in our settings menu. We only have 6 minutes to talk to you today about our company, but I'm beginning to think maybe 6 minutes was just enough time to help you realize that there is a whole new world out there that you didn't know that existed until 6 minutes ago. We're accepting beta signups now on our site if you'd like to check it out, and if you're a designer or an engineer, please come to our site and check out what we're doing. We are famous. Thank you.
Famous. All right.
Got some questions.
Judges,
Yeah.
what were your initial impressions on that?
I have a question. I mean, I guess some of this was over my head because I don't code, I'm not an engineer. So if I understood correctly, this makes stuff that you're building on a web browser in 3D.
It works in both, well, 2D is what our current web is and all of the native apps are. So it works in 2D mode as well. It also works in 3D mode with a simple flip of a switch.
So the idea is that that periodic table could have been my photo gallery.
Exactly.
Kind of like my screensaver when Apple TV takes over and everything's
Right,
fine.
and in the same way that people build templates in WordPress, and PHP engineers jumped on as a community and built millions of templates, we know the 3D world is this vast green space that's bigger than Famous. And what we want to do is democratize the process of building these 3D templates so that JavaScript engineers can simply explore. And we're thinking, what if there were 1 million of these templates to inspire people? And we think we can actually allow that to be the way we create 3D space. And Famous's job is to be the operating system in the sky and make sure it runs properly.
As of right now, there's not that 3D ability to, because when you switched to the other iPad, I still didn't see the 3D integration, or what was I missing?
I'm sorry?
When you switched to the other iPad at the end, there was still, was there?
2D representation.
The other
was
iPad
2D.
was for 2D.
Oh, it was 2D, okay. So, but there wasn't anywhere in the demo the periodic table mixed with that website vibe.
Oh, we didn't show like a 3D example demo app of like Pinterest.
Right.
We actually had that, but we didn't bring it.
Right, I mean, it'd be cool to see that, because I don't
It's super cool.
I don't know, I mean, this, in visual effects and 3D modeling, I see that and that ability to move around a lot. So you're just saying that you brought that to a web format.
Yeah, we just want to make and empower JavaScript engineers. That's what gives me and Mark like affirmation. That's what
And right
makes
now
us
they
go.
can't do that. They can't do that until this.
Not with HTML5.
Forgive me if my questions are, I'm
No,
trying
it's
to get
fine.
at.
I'm trying to figure it out
Most of
too.
this was over my head just now, so it was cool.
What's the most exciting application developers have created on your platform so far, to you?
In 3D or 2D?
3D.
I keep seeing in my mind a Pinterest pinboard in there, or maybe 500 pics or Flickr. anything that's visual, like photos, videos. I even see music in there. I could see Pandora or Spotify in there. I could even see my newsfeed in Facebook that way. The thing is, like, I'm not the guy that's going to build the app that's going to become super popular. I'm the infrastructure guy. And I think it's going to be the JavaScript engineers and the designers out there that build those apps that blow our minds away. And what Mark and I are really good at is performance and reliability, and that's what we really enjoy.
I like this for screensavers and Burning Man and things like that, but what is like, I'm still trying to grasp, like, what's the big app, what's the big idea here that is just gonna, I mean, I've seen rotating 3D pictures in the past and various different things. Like you mentioned, my Apple TV does the same thing. Like, what's so different about this other than just?
Yeah, the Apple TV rotating thing is a great example. That's a pre-rendered thing. What we showed today was actually an interactive app. And while that space is completely unexplored, that's the thing we're doing, is we're providing the tool to explore that space. But the other big notion of Famous is in the 2D space, the current web we live in, the current applications. JavaScript engineers have been trying to build web apps that are performant forever. And now they have a new tool in their tool belt to do that. So we don't want people to think that Famous is only 3D. We're basically able to solve the performance problems with all web apps.
So this is just all open source then?
What we envision is that when people build templates, they have two routes they could take. They could build a template and sell it, or they could build a template and open source it and put an entire community around it. Again, we really want to follow the notion and the spirit of WordPress, because it's just a really important company to me.
Scott, I want to make sure we get a chance to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think it felt a little Swiss Army knife to me. Like everything that you talked about was possible, everything from games to Pinterest. Do you have a sense of what the main focus or the main thrust? I mean, I would just think that it looks like it's searching for a use case.
I think the first use case that will be used is JavaScript engineers who are building normal web apps today will use Famous to see if it can solve their performance problems. And the beauty is that over time, as they want to begin to experiment slowly in 3D space, it's merely a toggle switch to begin experimenting with it.
Is there a specific JavaScript application that has that has a performance problem that you would attack? I mean, like, is there any area that's just like, oh my God, this is going to be our sweet spot?
I think it's just the whole field of people trying to use HTML5 to compete with native. Those JavaScript engineers that are trying to do that now have a whole new development tool to use for that. And I don't know what they're going to use it for. All of the web apps that are currently being built today will benefit from this technology.
That's Famous. We're out of time, but thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.